this heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
Eric, I'm having some trouble coming with a bit for our podcast today.
Oh yeah, really? There's a lot of great stuff here. What about, the scene where they run over a kid's head?
What would you do with that?
I don't know. I guess okay, maybe not that scene. How about a joke about where some guys try to have their way with a blind lady and then shoot their seeing eye dog?
Yeah, go on. Tell me what'd you do with that?
Yeah, I guess I'm starting to see your point. Not a whole lot funny about child prostitutes, I guess. So never mind.
Yeah, just you know what, man, just screw it. I'm gonna sing the opening theme song. Hot sweat running down your face, muscles working overtime. So slick, skin tight, gonna make that body mine. Ooh,
I tell you to stop, but I love it too much. I'm not sure this idea works.
We're talking about Toxic Avenger on the Pod of Dreams.
Meet little Melvin. He's a 90-pound weakling. Everyone hated Melvin.
I'm gonna take this mop and shove it down your throat.
They teased him.
I wanna do it with you. Okay.
They taunted him. They tormented him until he had a horrifying accident and fell into a vat of nuclear waste. Transforming little Melvin into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Melvin became the Toxic Avenger. The Toxic Avenger is coming to your town. Look out.
All right, Eric. So, when you talk about movies, one of the things that's super important to you is how rewatchable it is. You want a movie that you're going to not only enjoy watching the first time, but you're going to enjoy watching it through the years. With that in mind, would you ever watch The Toxic Avenger again?
Absolutely. Dude, this is the most bonkers crazy movie ever made in the history of movies. And if you want to have a few drinks and just laugh at the most ridiculous things you're seeing, like ever put to camera, put this movie on. I mean, there's so many things that I was just so shocked and stunned I had to rewind. Honestly, the kid getting run over, I think I watched it 4 times because they're like, what in the hell is this? So shocking. So yes, I would definitely rewatch this movie again, just because it's the craziest thing ever.
I am very, very relieved to hear you say that because this is my comfort food. This is a movie I've seen I think 4 times now.
You have to be
all the way through.
You have to be in the mood for it though, and you have to be the right person. This movie only probably works for a small segment of movie fans, but it works for me.
It's not for everybody at all. But for me, for Ben Lewis, this is my
sit down
food.
at Thanksgiving with your family and say, let's watch a movie.
No, it's not a family movie at all, but it is beginning to end joy. When I first hear that narrator come in, Tromaville, all the modern amenities, and that voice comes on I'm back home. I'm here in Tromaville. I'm happy. I'm escaping my problems for an hour and a half, and I'm just going to watch this wonderful, wonderful little movie.
Well, it's funny because I just mentioned it's only for a certain segment of people. This was a hugely popular movie, right?
Later on, obviously, it made I don't even know if it had a theatrical run. If it did, it made absolutely no money at the theatrical run.
Yes,
but it killed it in the very new at the time. This movie came out in like 84, I think. And then it killed it in VHS, a lot of movies.
Not just money making, for the film, cultural significance. There was action figures and freaking cartoon. You remember the cartoon?
I'll explain to you how I found this. So this will be an anecdote that'll justify all that stuff. So yes, there was a cartoon sometime in the early 90s called The Toxic Crusaders.
That's what I saw first. That's
what I saw first as well. I saw it as a kid. I don't remember watching that much or even liking it in particular, but Toxie is one of the main characters, and there's 2 other mutant characters in it. And I was strolling through Netflix. I don't know, this maybe 2015, 2016, maybe earlier than that, maybe 2013. I don't know, sometime a few years ago. And I saw Toxic Avenger popped up. And I'm like, oh, what? They made a movie off the cartoon show? I mean, like an idiot. And then I looked at the time and was like, oh, wait, this is the other way around. This came first. And then I read the description. I'm like, what? This movie sounds really violent and weird and not something you would ever base a kid show off of.
So you didn't know about the movie until like 2015?
Something like that. Middle aughts somewhere,
that's
give or take.
interesting. See, like this to me was one of those like VHS tape things. I'm sure we rented it once and watched it like when I was, I don't know,
with your big brother.
He must have grabbed it at Blockbuster and we watched it.
Okay, I had never seen it or heard of it before. I watched it and it was just pure joy, smile on my face, beginning to end of this movie. It's like I can't believe this movie. This movie is relentless. It is fantastic.
But yeah, it's comical because it doesn't make any sense. The acting is awful. Like some of the worst acting in movie history. The plot of the movie, like what happens, is just stupid. It's completely ridiculous. But it's hilarious though because it's so off the wall bonkers.
Well, there's so many things I love about it. So like that bad acting, it's bad acting, but almost everybody's trying. That's the great part. There's nobody who's being ironic. They're just really putting a lot into it, and it's wonderful. But to set up the stage of the plot of this movie, it's set in this fictional town of Tromaville, which is New Jersey, and it's a town ridden with corruption and pollution. And it's this bizarre hybrid of like a death wish where, there's a cop ex-cop who's had enough and he's got to clean up these streets, or Cobra, like crime's the disease, and he's the cure.
Very
that kind of
80s.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right. This very like I'm going to just kill a bunch of people because that's what's wrong, is we're too soft. Mixed with like a bizarre superhero story. They're melted together and they ratchet up all those tropes to 11. The people in it are so comically evil. It's insane. They aren't run-of-the-mill evil. I mean, there's a woman who masturbates to pictures of dead kids. There's 4 working out yuppie people who drive around getting points for running kids over.
Yeah, you got to stop there, though. You got to stop. Like that, because the movie is it's like weird and funny, and these guys are mean to the Melvin guy. Like, there's clearly like a bully, buff guy bully thing going on. But when you get to the car scene, that's when everything goes to like a whole new level where it's just like, what in the hell is this movie?
Yeah, that's where it's not going to flinch away. I mean, there's this ridiculous song that plays as this boy goes out for a bike ride on a highway.
Innocent little kid biking down the street. And Slug and Bozo, the 2 like main bad guys in this movie, are driving on their car with their girlfriends.
And they have like evil girlfriends.
Yeah, they're all just crazy, but you don't really think they're going to do anything that crazy yet. And he starts talking about this point system where if they hit something, they get extra points and how a kid's worth more. And then they see this kid and you're just like, no, they're not going to do that. Sure enough, runs over the kid flies over the car, and you're like, okay, that's pretty bad. And then he throws it in reverse and drives over the kid's head, and you see the head just squish under the tire in one of the most disturbing death scenes I've ever seen. Little kid, and his body's shaking. His limbs are just shaking there with his flattened head over the car. And I paused it and I was like, that can't be what just happened. Like, that is not, because I remembered this movie being violent, but I was like, this can't even be it. And
just
then
you talking about it makes me happy.
Go back and rewatch it, and it wasn't until the second time that I started laughing, because then I was like, oh, that's what this is. Like, this is like balls to the wall. Like, I don't care about anything. This is the most like violent, like grotesque thing you could ever put to film. And these guys are laughing about it. And then they stand over his dead body and take pictures of him. And then you're saying, then the girl ends up masturbating to the pictures of a dead kid they just drove over. It is the craziest sequence in movie history, as far as I'm concerned.
And I wish I could describe the music that's playing. I don't know how to describe. There's a song playing. This weird light.
It's like Danger Zone from Top Gun.
Sort of, but it's like more mild. It's more easy listening than that. Even it's like it's hard to describe. It fits perfectly, but also it doesn't fit at all, which is why it fits. It's so bizarre.
Doesn't the slug guy say something about going to church after he runs over the kids?
Oh yeah. Well, they're like they want to do more, right? They've killed this kid on a bike, and they're like, we need to go around. He's like, nah, I gotta go home. And they're about to give him some shit, like, you gotta go home. He's like, oh, I gotta go to church the next day. It's just a silly throwaway line, but shows how messed up. I mean, Bozo is such a hilariously awful character. So at one point there's this janitor who works at the gym who's he's clearly got special needs. I don't know how else to describe. I mean, he's not. There's just something that's, he's got some sort of developmental disability. And
yeah, but that was an 80s trope where the like weird guy who's got some problems works at this place and everybody picks on him. The one thing I thought of when I saw this movie, rewatching it, like the book Carrie by Stephen King, it's a lot like this. Like the book obviously came before the movie, but the idea of this like sort of weird person that gets these special powers and seeks revenge on everybody. It's very Carrie-esque, in my opinion.
Sort of, but I love that like there's this professor who gives a lecture on, they call him Toxie, and he's like, he has the ability to sense evil. So it sets it up that like he's pre-programmed to just kill people that are evil, which is, again, this like death wish trope, right? You're just not supposed to care anybody, or like the Nazis in an Indiana Jones movie. Hey, they're violent, so you get to enjoy the violence because those people are pure evil. It's such a hilarious and silly narrative device, and it makes it even more fun. You're like, well, I guess he's killing people who are evil, so I don't have to feel bad about the violence. I can indulge my violent urges. It's really stupendous. But this Bozo guy, they rig up something where the janitor he puts on a tutu and he's gonna fool around with Bozo's girlfriend.
I always, because you would see the pictures of the Toxic Avenger, and he always had the tutu on, and I never remembered from seeing it, like, why the hell did he have a tutu on? It never made any sense to me, but like, of course, there's some stupid reason for it, because the one girl was wanted him to wear a tutu when he came to see her, and that's when they played the trick on him. But the tutu thing is funny to me because like I never knew why he had that on.
Yeah, that was the only thing I remembered from the cartoon was that like he was going to go on a date, and his date's like, you got to wear this tutu. It's really gets me going. So he wears a tutu, and then that's part of the joke. But he ends up getting harassed by literally everybody in the health club. I mean, everybody's like waiting and watching for the prank. I love that everybody hangs out at this gym and spa all day long. Apparently everybody. But he ends up running out the window to try to get away from people. Inexplicably, he's just so distraught.
Dives straight through the glass.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And he lands in, there's this truck just driving around toxic ooze.
Yeah, like that was the part. That was the part I wanted. The truck with the barrels of ooze just sliding around on the back of the truck. Yeah, it was so hilarious. It's just this flatbed truck with these toxic ooze things just sliding around. I thought that was funny.
And they have to stop there because the guy has like cocaine, so they have to stop and snort cocaine right in front of the health club. So he goes face first into these barrel of toxic ooze and starts like melting in. That's his like radioactive spider moment. And as he's like wincing and writhing in pain, Bozo, the guy who like helped set this all up, is like, he's faking it. This guy's faking it. If he can't take a joke, he stinks. He stinks, Julie. This guy's stressing me out.
He's stressing me out. I'm very stressed out. Yeah.
He sounds a bit like Robert De Niro in Raging Bull, actually, a little bit. Like, it's pretty funny. And he ends up turning into this toxic mutant who, again, is super strong and I guess impervious to bullets. I don't know, but
just to jump back, the transformation, like the one thing this movie has like incredibly well is like costume, the special effects stuff.
Oh, the practical effects are genuinely fun. They're a delight.
That scene too, I was so blown away. It's like, now it would just be some CGI blob.
Nonsense.
But like
it would suck. Yes. Yep.
And not just that scene. I mean, all the makeup, costuming, and it's violent, completely disgusting. But like,
the violent deaths. Oh yeah. I mean,
it's done really, really well. Like they put a lot of time and effort into it. And there's like tanks and shit and like cars blowing up. Like for a movie that cost probably not even $1 million. Like there's some amazing stuff in it.
No, I love it because you can see the effort and the joy that went into it. As bad as the acting is, like people really wanted to make this movie that were part of it because almost nobody made any money. And I love it. And when you say that expression, they don't make movies like that anymore. It's really true from a practical standpoint, like practical effects. They just don't make practical effects like that anymore. And I love them. They're just fun to look at. Even though they're practical effects, they're just way more fun to watch than a CGI, like a practical effect of a head squishing is way better than a CGI head squishing effect. I mean, it's not even there's a car chase towards the end of the movie, and you can see like there's two handles that have been like bolted on the top of the car.
Yeah,
for the
when he's
stuntman.
hanging on. Yeah, when he's hanging on.
And technically in a more professional movie, you wouldn't see those. You try to hide those. But I love that you can see that. Like, look, there's a guy holding on to those so that he can be on top of the car that's driving down the street. I mean, that endears itself to me. But I just love, they're gonna like, this is gonna be a revenge movie mixed with a superhero movie, and we're gonna make the people really, really terrible, and we're gonna make sure the superhero, well, he just has to kill evil. That's why. I mean, he's like, he can't stop himself. And there's a moment where you have to like doubt the hero aspect. He kills an old lady. He shoves her into a washing machine at a dry cleaner, and it turns out she's like some crime lord. It's great. It's just great. But I want to talk about, Eric, the height of, there's so many parts about this movie I love, and it's only like an hour and 22 minutes long, but it's just packed. Once you get the premise set up, once they get like 25 minutes in, it's like, all right, we're just going to go and we're going to watch Toxie kill a bunch of horrible people, and that's it. That's the movie. But we got to do the scene at the taco place. That's my favorite.
Taco scene, yes.
I do love the kid getting run over, but the taco scene, that's just pure beginning to end joy. So there's these three criminals who decide they're going to hold up a taco place. One of them's wearing absurd, I don't even know what you'd call it, makeup.
The face paint? Yeah,
like Batman villain makeup. Yeah. And this is where, like, I just have such respect for it. Like, you want to make people hate it. So we get a blind woman sitting there, and they're just robbing these people, this taco place, and they're going to rape this blind woman, and the dog starts growling. She's got a seeing eye dog with her. The dog starts growling or trying to stand up for her. And they shoot the dog. And they show it. They show the dog getting shot. And they show it's clearly makeup on a dog that's just lying there. But like, they put a bunch of makeup on. And they show these people shooting a blind woman seeing eye dog and try to rape her. I mean, it's just ludicrous.
Insane. It's absolutely insane.
And then we get the best fights and the best deaths in
Is
the whole
that
movie.
the first time we hear the Toxic Avenger's voice? Because that part, it killed every time he spoke. It just killed me. His weird, like, this sort of straight, narrow, like, lawyer voice.
Yeah, it's like Clark Kent, Superman, right? It's like very.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. Excuse me. I believe you dropped this.
Right, but he's this mutant. His face is falling off.
Very formal and polite.
Yeah.
And then he's got the corny puns.
And it's clearly just like dubbed over. Yeah, it's insane.
No, yeah, the mouth, that like the mask for the Toxic Avenger doesn't really move. It's not like it articulates the mouth.
Right.
They just did it in it post editing and just added the guy do voiceover. It works just fine for this movie. I mean, you get a guy who's fighting and he loses an arm.
Yeah, he just rips his arm right off. He just rips that guy's arm.
And the guy's
right
like
off.
standing there. He doesn't realize it first.
He's still trying to fight him with the other arm. Yeah.
One guy gets turned into a milkshake. Another get his hand stuck in a fryer. Just ludicrous. And there's a weird drunk guy, like a drunk fry cook, who's just like worried he's hallucinating the whole thing. I mean, it's just wonderful. That's my favorite scene. Just some of the worst things you've ever heard. Hey Leroy, have you ever wanted to cornhole? I've always wanted to cornhole a blind.
Jesus, yeah.
It's one of the worst things I've ever heard uttered in a movie ever. And that's after they've shot a seeing eye. I mean, it's just ludicrous. So that's what it gives you. And it's clear they're like spoofing a bunch of other movies. There's elements of like Friday the 13th in there, and Mad Max inspired the car chase. But I mean, that's it. I mean, you just get so many characters that just say the worst stuff. A guy who promises a 12-year-old that she can go to a David Bowie concert, tries to make her a child prostitute, and then he's just walking the streets trying to get somebody to solicit her. And he's like 12. She's only 12 years old and only $12. I mean, it's just some really first-rate horrible stuff. But Eric, I want to ask, I'm always conflicted about the ending. What did you think of the big showdown in the park at the very end?
You mean by the campsite, where they're at the campsite?
Yes, yep. And they get like the National Guard's there.
And he rips the mayor's guts out. Right,
but before that, like, the people in town going to stand up for Toxie or not?
Yeah. I mean, it's stupid, but it fits the stupid movie. Like, the whole stuff with the blind woman, like their love triangle or the montages.
I love the love montage. It's so stupid, but every love montage is stupid. Yeah,
And then they move out to the toxic dump, and he lives out there.
She moves in with him. Yeah. They put up a picture of the dog. The joke that she's blind, but she's really bad at it and doesn't know anything. I mean, that's just. And there's like a super inordinate amount of nut shots in the movie. I mean, I think it happens like 5 times where somebody gets him
with the champagne bottle pop thing too. She gets him around the nuts.
Yeah, and it happens during a bunch of fights, and you get the cross-eyed, it hurts face all the time. But the ending, I'm so conflicted by, because it is stupid in a delightful way. But then I think, man, I want the best kills to be the end, right? You just want to kind of build up to just some crazy action sequence at the end where things really go nuts.
I was disappointed
that
the Nazi
police chief.
Yeah, the Nazi police chief was weird. Like, what the heck? All of a sudden, he's like German and he's doing the Sig Heil. Like, what? Yeah, what's going on? But yeah, I thought it was going to build up to a big kill for Slug and Bozo, but you didn't even see one of them. He just threw him out the car, and then the other guy, the car blows up. I suppose that's like a big thing. The car blows up. But yeah, I was surprised there wasn't a bigger climax to him getting revenge on those guys. Because to the 2 women, he brutalizes them. The one girl, he burns her in the sauna.
Well, we don't see her die. Yeah, she says, this would be a lesson to your hot ass.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty brutal.
The sauna coals. Oh, it would hurt a lot. And then the other one we don't see.
In the basement, right? He chases her down into the basement.
Yeah, it's like a horror sequence. It feels very much like Friday the 13th. You know, right. he's the killer slowly on. And we see him have a pair of scissors, and then it cuts away before we see it.
Right.
Now, should we know there is an unrated version of this, and we saw the rated version. As graphic as it was, there is some stuff that wasn't included for whatever reason.
Yeah, if you're listening this far and you said you can get it on YouTube, right? You can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
You can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
I watched it on Plex, the free streaming service, so I guess I'd sat through commercials. But you said at one point it was on Netflix, right? So it's not on there anymore. But
yeah, and you can rent it from Amazon. I mean, it's probably like $4. It's an hour and 20 minutes.
But you've never seen the unrated version. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I have. I may have and I may not. The Netflix one might have been unrated. I was trying to look for it. I was like, it's a movie I want to own in some capacity, and I want the unrated cut because I want it as violent and insane as possible. Give me more nonsense. I mean, generally with these movies, you want to keep it short. This is made by Lloyd Kaufman, who did a bunch of these low budget kind of violent spoof movies.
That was the piece I was going to chat about. So not only we're talking about how this was popular because there was cartoons and stuff. They made 3 sequels, so there's 3 movies.
I've seen the second and the third one, and then there was a 4th one that came out in the early 2000s, which I've not seen.
And apparently there's supposed to be a reboot of it. On Wikipedia, there's a reboot that's been kicking around since 2018. And the most recent update was Peter Dinklage was going to be in it.
Yep, and Elijah Wood and
Kevin Bacon, as recently as June of 2021. So, but the trauma thing, that was the thing I was going to talk to you about. Have you seen any of their other movies?
So I've seen some. None that I've liked as much as Toxic Avenger. Toxic Avenger hits me in all the right spots. I've seen one's called Surf Nazis Must Die, which is an absurd title, and they're Nazis who are surfers, and I think they're terrorizing a beach or something. It wasn't as funny or as enjoyable. Other people like Class of Nukem High, which I've never seen. That's another one that some people really, really like. Tromeo and Juliet, which is a Romeo and Juliet spoof, but with weird mutant monsters. I mean, that's the whole...
Isn't that the James Gunn movie? Is he the Tromeo? Yeah, James Gunn.
He got to start in Troma.
He did, yeah. He wrote that movie. He wrote Tromeo and Juliet. So James Gunn, the Guardians of the Galaxy, for the people that don't know, he's kind of the creative force behind that.
Yep. So,
and these movies definitely, I mean, I don't know if anybody listening to this knows James Gunn's other movies, but is it Slither, the one that
I've never seen Slither, but that's a James he directed.
A very kind of gross, a lot of weird, you could tell Toxic Avenger has a lot of the DNA in his films, and then he has that one superhero movie with Dwight from The Office, very violent and
Super, right? It's just called Super, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, so over the top.
You can see the sensibility, the violence, absolutely. And the satire mixed in. Although those movies I think are probably better, quote unquote, done in terms from acting and visual effects standpoint.
Yeah.
But certainly the voice or the tone. from the trauma stuff.
So so you mentioned Sizzle Beach, right? Was that one?
I said Surf Nazis Must Die is one I've seen.
Sizzle Beach is another trauma movie starring the kind of the spirit animal of this podcast, Kevin Costner. He starred in a trauma picture way back in the day.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 1986. It was never released. So apparently there's like a Mystery Science Theater where they did it. So it never released, and I think he paid a lot of money to like make it disappear.
Sure. Once
he became famous, so I don't think you can see it at all. But it is an official trauma movie. It's Sizzle Beach. It seems like
wow, that's fascinating. Okay, that's super interesting. I mean, a lot of folks got their start in like cheap horror. I mean, George Clooney had one.
Yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio's in one of the Critters movies.
Costner was reportedly uncomfortable filming a sex scene. In the late 80s, Costner tried to buy the rights so he could keep it out of public view. Oh, but they declined to sell, so it is out. I guess you can see it. All
right. Well, now you've given me a project. I'm going to try to watch that. Then I feel like I'm obligated to watch it. I don't expect it to be as good as Toxic Avenger because this is Toxic Avenger is this perfect mix of all the things that I love in a movie that's fun. But yeah, I'm definitely going to try to see that. That's fantastic. I learned something totally new today. And yeah, that one's supposed to come. The new Toxic Avenger is supposed to come out in 2022 with Peter Dinklage as the guy that's bullied, the Melvin character who turns into the Toxic Avenger. And
how do you think that will there's no way they're going to mirror the tone of this, right?
Well, there's so much about this you can't, because this came out in the 80s and there's just things you can't do. But if it's got Peter Dinklage as the guy who's bullied by horrible people like Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood doing their smarmiest, and I think both guys could probably do smarmy, really, really well, and it's hyper violent, that's all I want. I mean, I'd love for it to be practical effects, but I doubt it will be, because Peter Dinklage could just be really, really great. I guess I don't want it to be a super serious take.
That's something. Will it be serious or will it be funny? I bet they'll go serious. It'll be just a superhero movie, because that's the other piece of it is like didn't Marvel buy the rights to it and then ended up putting out some comics as well?
They may have. I at some point, I don't know. Yeah, that's very possible. It got popular enough again.
I remember Toxic Avenger comics. Here, just looked it up. It is Marvel short-lived comic book series based off the film, published in 91 and 92. So I remember those comics coming out. It was a big deal. Toxic Avenger was a huge deal.
It's kind of a cult. It's really kind of fits the definition of a cult movie that wasn't initially popular but gained a lot of steam, a lot of enthusiasm after its release. So I don't know. I mean, I try to describe this movie. If you're into violence and absurdity, it's fantastic. But let's get into it. I mean, I don't have a ton more to say. I mean, yeah, some of the things in it, I don't love if I said in a big part, I don't like the gay characters very much.
Yeah.
That feels kind of icky. Don't like that very much. But everybody else that's vile, I mean, they're people that should be vile because they're characters who are going to be violently murdered because they're awful. So then when they say awful stuff, they're punished for their actions. But otherwise, I love the soundtrack. I think the music in this is all incredible.
Oh, it bleeds 80s, right? Like everything about it.
It doesn't get more 80s. It starts with the thing I led. My song was the Sandy Farina song called Body Heat. The movie opens with this montage of people working out and a lot of like people's bodies, faceless bodies working out in the gym. And it's this just really cheesy Olivia Newton-John, let's get physical kind of thing. It's great. And then it's got this Rocky theme song. Well, not like Rocky the boxer, but like just hair metal-y. And there's just this schmaltzy love song during the love montage because, of course, the Toxic Avenger falls in love with the blind woman that he saves at the taco joint. And it's just filled with just fantastic music all the time. I mean, I don't know. It's great. I love almost everything else about this movie.
If you build it, he will come.
But Eric, why don't you give me what is your rating for the Toxic Avenger?
Yeah, this is a hard thing because it's not a serious rating, right? Like, I mean, or maybe it is for you. For me, if I was going to put this up against other movies that I consider great, I wouldn't give it the same rating. So I gave it a 3.5, which is pretty good for me. That's a pretty high rating. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. it's bad. I mean, it's terribly made if you're gonna actually like review it like a real film. But it made me laugh, and I'll never forget some of the things that happened in it. So yeah, I give it a 3.5.
Well, I'm with you that it's hard because you're trying to think of something transcendent and really cinematic and meaningful and profound or whatever when you think you give a movie a high rating.
It's not a great movie with a
It's
capital
enthusiastically
G.
made. I love the practical effects and the makeup and the music, and there's so many aspects of it that are great. But it's also one that I love more than it's better. I mean, if I'm making a distinction between what I value as artistically relevant versus what brings me joy and subjective.
The artistically relevant. Was this movie like trying to... Could you make an argument it was really trying to make this sort of statement about like global warming and environmentalism, and like were there some themes that were maybe, about bullying and all that stuff? Could you actually read into it, or is it just a stupid movie about this guy that falls into... You
can read into anything. And I've seen this movie enough time where my brain will go to those weird spots where I'll find it more... I'll find whatever kind of commentary I want that makes sense. I mean, to me, you can find something about violence in movies and what this is saying because it's so absurd and it makes the characters, the villains, so absurdly vile and evil, and it makes its protagonist so saintly and hunting out evil. It's sort of a commentary on violence and a spoof and a parody of these like revenge movies, like a movie like Death Wish, right? A movie like Death Wish doesn't have any interest in figuring out where criminality comes from. It just says these people are awful and we need some tough guy with karate skills and a gun to murder everybody.
Yeah, the Clint Eastwood view on
it's not
crime.
Interested in actually deconstructing what's going on and why there's so many criminals and what the problems are, other than just liberals are too weak. It's like, and this is sort of a commentary on that because this is like, it does that, but turns it up to 11. And it's like, all right, fine. I mean, that's what this movie is. This is as absurd as that. You can do that kind of thing. Certainly they're criticizing pollution and making fun of New Jersey. New Jersey is considered just this like, slummy dumping ground for New York's pollution, basically. And that was a thing, I think, in the 80s. So there's that if you want to read into it. So yeah, if you want to read something about global warming, you can. If he's your version of Captain Planet, that's fine. I think mostly it's just a lovingly made, try hard, though not professionally made, spoof of superhero and revenge movies. And I love that they play it straight. There's just no winking in the camera. I mean, there's a lot of jokes, but it's not meta in the way that like Deadpool would be. There's no commentary on it. They just we're going to take the tropes and we're just going to ratchet them way the hell up.
Deadpool is an interesting... I thought about that too when I was watching this movie, because Deadpool is a lot... I mean, I think it's trying to be... It's trying to be funny. Whereas like this movie, I don't think really was. It just is funny. There's no jokes in it, you know what I mean? Like Deadpool's just riddled with jokes. But like a disfigured superhero comes back, kind of a similar. I thought about Deadpool a lot when I was watching this movie. I don't know if the same was for you, but
a little bit, but in contrast. But yeah, I mean they play it straight. I mean I think it is made as a comedy, but the comedy comes from we're going to play it straight. We're not going to make overt jokes. Like there's going to be some like the characters like that. Oh, I can't hit people with my car anymore because I have to go to church tomorrow. I need to be arrested for church. That's a joke, but the characters in that scene aren't treating it like a joke. They're like, of course, you've got to be a good person and go to church. It's very important. And totally distanced from the fact that they're doing this horrible, violent thing that they don't care about.
I guess that's where the humor comes from. The mayor to see if he has any guts and ripping out. I mean, that's, I guess, a joke. Yeah,
that's like a superhero thing, though. You make a pun, and this one is just violent and gross, but it's like, let's say if he has any guts, or, I mean, I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but he has a bunch of them when he kills people with absurd, just absurd, corny superhero puns, but in the context of violence.
All right, so I interrupt. What is your rating? Did you even say it? I can't.
I can't. No, I didn't. I was doing a lot of stage setting like you were. I was kind of trying to make there's movies I'm going to evaluate seriously on their artistic merits, and then there's movies that I'm just going to love. On its artistic merits, it's not very good at all. Other than the practice. I mean, there are parts of it that are genuinely really good, and I love that you can see the passion that everybody made it, loved it. That's endearing to me. It's when I have trouble being rational. I mean, this is but it's a subjective thing. I'm gonna give you my subjective rating. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, and that's me being more critical. I mean, for my taste, it's almost a perfect movie. It is. I'm looking forward to forgetting a little bit about it and watching it again in a year or two when I'm just like, you know what, I'm having a bummer of a day. You know what? Let's turn on Toxic Avenger and I will feel better. Have a couple beers. Yeah. And I will be having a great time for me. So I love it. It's in this camp of rewatchable movies that are just pure comfort food for me subjectively. But yes, my mom would not enjoy it at all. A lot of people I know wouldn't enjoy it, but it's right up my alley. So I love it.
So we're just a half point off. Look at that. Look at us. Look at us.
That's fine. So are you the Hot Ones guy?
Yeah, me and Paul Rudd.
That's right. Your favorite actor of all time, Paul Rudd.
If you build it, you will come.
So this is a little tricky. This is like a low budget movie from the mid '80s. There are no famous people in it, with one possible exception.
One exception. Yep, that's where I went. I'm sure.
Oh, you went with the exception. Okay. Yeah. So how are you connecting this to Field of Dreams?
Well, so I'll go first. So yeah, you mentioned the possible exception. So Marissa Tomei is actually in this movie. She's one of the women working out at the athletic club, and she's like screams once when he comes into the locker room. So she's not even like, she doesn't even have a line. I think she just.
No, she's like an uncredited extra.
But yeah, she's in this movie. So I started with her, and she is in a movie called Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin movie, starring Robert Downey Jr. Also in that movie is James Woods. He's kind of a right-wing lunatic now, but for a minute there, he was like a big-time movie star. He's also in a movie called Casino, Scorsese movie. And in that movie is Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci's in JFK. And JFK is also starring Kevin Costner, who's in Field of Dreams, right? So we're connecting this back to Field of Dreams, making this our Iowa connection here with our guy Kevin Costner.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, those are my 5 movies. So Chaplin, Toxic Avenger to Chaplin, Chaplin to Casino, Casino JFK, and JFK to Field of Dreams.
Yeah. Sounds good. So I did 2 sets because there was the Marissa Tomei route, which I thought about and I created a lane. Since she's an uncredited extra, yeah, she doesn't have any speaking lines. Is one, and then another one with the actor that plays Leroy. I'm gonna say both just because I had a lot of fun with this. This was a little more challenging. So I'll start with Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei is in a movie called My Cousin Vinny with Joe Pesci, which you may have heard of. Joe Pesci is in the movie Home Alone, the first one with John Candy. And then John Candy's in a movie called Uncle Buck, fantastic Uncle Buck. And his girlfriend in that movie is played by Amy.
Isn't Macaulay Culkin also in Uncle Buck?
Yep, and in Home Alone. So a couple of different routes you could have gone from Home Alone. But yes. And then I wanted to reference John Candy because I love John Candy. He's awesome. And then Amy... Is it My Gun? I'm not sure I'm saying her last name correctly, but she's Kevin Costner's wife in Field of Dreams. That's the Marissa Tomei route. And then the other one is Patrick Kilpatrick. He plays Leroy, the guy with all the face paint in the taco scene.
Okay.
So he's a character in a movie called Three Ninjas Knuckle Up. Are you familiar with the Three Ninja series at all?
I'm very, very familiar with the original Three Ninjas.
Yeah, well, that was the best one. That was the one I've seen. Yeah. But there was. Is
that Roy Schneider? Rob Schneider? Isn't he?
No, that's Surf Ninjas.
Surf Ninjas. Okay, which one's Three Ninjas?
There are 3 white suburban kids who have an Asian grandfather.
Oh,
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay, yep.
And he teaches them karate.
Yep.
And for some I think the grandpa gets kidnapped by some horrible ponytailed drug dealing villain, the kind of late 80s, early 90s villain that you had, and they have to fight. They fight burglars with their karate skills, and they rescue their grandpa.
Remember that one too.
That's the first one, and then there's 2 other sequels. One of them was I don't remember which it was. This is the second or third one, but there's one called Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, and so Patrick Kilpatrick is in that movie And the grandpa, the Asian grandpa, is Victor Wong. That's the actor that plays him. Now, Victor Wong is definitely somebody you'd recognize from other stuff. He is in Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Gremlins, too, right? Isn't that the same
different
guy
guy
in
in
Gremlins?
Gremlins, but he's in like The Golden Child, and he's in some other stuff too that you recognize.
Tremors,
he was
Tremors, right?
Tremors is what it is. Yes, that's the other one I couldn't think of. Yes, he's absolutely in Tremors as well. But I went with Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell, and then once you get to Kurt Russell, you can go to Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. That's another route you can take. So I wanted to use Marissa Tomei, and then maybe if that's a cheat, have an alternate route for that one. So, all right. Well, we love Toxic Avenger. If you like violence, absurdity, corny acting, great practical effects, watch Toxic Avenger. But Eric, what are we watching next week?
All right. So next Pot of Dreams, we're watching a movie called THX 1138.
Oh my God. Okay. Excellent.
It's a wild title for a movie, so you probably never heard of it. It's actually on HBO Max, so go ahead and check it out. It's a movie, the first film directed by a guy named George Lucas.
No, I've seen it. I'm looking forward to
watching it. Oh, you've seen it before? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen it, so the reason I picked it, reading this book, and it was talking about the history of that movie, and his first film was before Star Wars, before any other movie he had, so I want to see it, want to check it out, and I think it's kind of a divisive movie, so yeah. THX 1138, George Lucas movie on HBO Max is up next.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Give us likes, download, listen, subscribe. We love you. Thank you.
Hey, Ben. No ticky, no washi.
Oh, my God.
Peace.
Okay. Peace.